There's the quorum. There's 4 of us here. And Mayor Andori is on excused leave. So we'll take roll call. Oh, okay. By a visual check, I did. Okay.
We can take a roll call.
Oh, that's okay. Why did that repeat back? That's
Beatrix. Yeah,
Yeah.
why are we getting, who has their volume on? Who has their volume on?
okay.
We're hearing the playback. And then I guess you read the next part.
Yes. I'll wait till that echoes over though. Okay, I will move on to agenda item 3, the disclosure. Yeah, we're still hearing it back here.
Okay, does somebody have YouTube on their open?
No.
Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3.
There's two.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I will move on to agenda item 3. Welcome to our 4th in-person council meeting. This will be a hybrid meeting. This is as a courtesy, members of the public may participate remotely. As we move through the agenda, everyone will have the opportunity to address the council. If you are here in the room, please fill out a speaker slip and indicate which item you wish to comment on. The city clerk will call on you to speak in the order you turn in your speaker slip. If you are participating remotely, when we get to the item you wish to comment on, please use the raise hand feature and the city clerk will recognize you. Public comments from remote participants on Zoom will be audio only. This means members of the public wishing to address the council will be allowed to speak live. However, their video will not be shown and screen sharing will not be an option. Finally, since the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and the option for the public to participate remotely is a courtesy, if technical difficulties arise for participants using the Zoom option, the meeting will continue unless required otherwise by the Brown Act. Okay. We'll move on to number 4, adoption of agenda. And may I ask fellow members of the council, we have item 16A, which is a proclamation for the library. Could one of you recommend to move that up while our presenter is here so that he can stay? Doesn't have to stay till the very end of the meeting.
So we would move it up.
I move adoption of the agenda with the exception that we move item 16C, no,
A, I think, is it?
16A
A.
to item 9, confirming with legal counsel that we can combine the action item with the presentation.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Geringer. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. So I'll take all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. All right. We are moving on to public comments. Are there any virtual participants?
If any member of the public would like to address the council at this time, please raise your virtual hand. Mayor, there's no member of the public present or no member participating remotely that wishes to address the council.
Thank you. Then with that, we will move on to closed session. Welcome back. We have finished our closed session and we did provide direction to our negotiators. With that, we will continue to item 7, the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you all stand? All right, we are on public comments. Are there anyone that would like to make comments that are pertaining to a subject not on the agenda tonight?
Mayor, I have no speaker slips and I have one hand raised and it would be from Carol Singer. So I will have Carol Singer address the council.
Thank you.
Carol, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council. This item was on the agenda, but I didn't hear it. Maybe I missed it. Item 3. Did you do item 3?
Yes, we did.
Yes, Carol, it's a little reading of basically the explanation that due to the way we're doing meetings now, it's a courtesy for people to call in, but if we have technical difficulties, the meeting will still commence, basically.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was listening. I completely missed it. That's what it was. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, with that, we will move on to our presentations. And I understand, Marianne, you would like to introduce our librarian. So I welcome you to the podium.
Marianne Hoisington, 959 Hawthorne. Is it on?
Is the light on?
Hello, is it on now? I'm pushing a little button. Is it on?
It's on, it's on.
Oh,
You just need to give you some volume.
sorry. Marianne Hoisington, 959 Hawthorne. Is it okay? Good. Okay. I'm just here. You want me over there? Oh.
Thanks, Marianne.
I'm taking too much of your time because I'm just here as your library commissioner and as part of the Friends of the Library to support Rob, because he just is so open-minded and he listens, and we're so delighted to have him that I just wanted you to know that the library side of things is very pleased. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, Rob, you're welcome to make your way to the
Hey, there we go. All right, fantastic. I love it when technology works. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. And Marianne, thank you much for that nice introduction. I know we have some short amount of time tonight, so I'll be quick and go through a slide deck that we have prepared for you all. It is National Library Week. It's an exciting time in libraries. I'm sure many of you have seen the news stories that are currently on the national level that are out right now about National Library Week. And so that's my purpose for being here, to be with you all this evening and to give you an update as well on our strategic plan and some progress that we've had, some results, things that we've been working on over the last couple of years here at the library. So let's get into our presentation. One of the things we talk about at the library is circulation, and circulation means checking items in and out. That can be physical items like our books on CD, our films, and then it can also be our electronic items like our ebooks. We know those have been very popular, especially during the pandemic. If you look at our circulation stats, you'll see that we've gone up in our circulation by 7%, looking between 2021 and 21-22. As we move into the next slide, you'll see the library visits between 21-22, and then the last set of years that we consider to be normal, 2018, 2019, we did see a drop in 7% of people coming into the library. But like I said in the previous slide, our circulation is still rather high, and we attribute most of that to our digital collections. And we've learned how our library users are using the library in a way that they have not before. They're using services remotely without coming into our buildings at all, in addition to those who are still coming into our buildings to engage in community services and the programs that we provide. So as we look at ebook checkouts, again, we see this increase in circulation. We see almost an 8% increase between 21 and 22. As we move forward, let's talk more about some of our other digital resources. So we have BrainFuse Job Now, which is an online source that you can use for job coaching and resume building, as well as other job tutorial resources. We have Press Reader, which is a new resource that's geared towards providing periodicals and newspapers. So the big ones that you can get there are The Economist, as well as like some larger papers like The Guardian or the Chicago Tribune. Many other resources are there. And then lastly, Hispanic Life in America, which is a historical resource, a conglomerate of news media resources from the 18th century moving forward about Hispanic life in America. In-person programming. We talk about circulation a lot and items at the library. The other big piece that we serve in library is programming. And programming to us means having patrons into the library to engage in story times, book clubs, 3D printing workshops, so on and so forth. And as we went into the pandemic, we saw how we could diversify that and have virtual programming. And we are still doing many successful virtual programs today, along with our in-person programming. We restarted in-person in July of 2022. As an organization, we had nearly 1,400 programs serving nearly 55,000 people. Lunch at the library is another service we provide. We're currently working with 7 different locations, and we're providing lunch to the underserved populations during the summertime to make that nutritional gap that happens that we see in summers. Most popular books in 21-22. The Thank You book is our early reader choice, or our early reader most commonly read book. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, of course. I feel like we can't keep these on the shelf. Teen reader, Shadow and Bone, and then for adults, The Lincoln Highway. The library has recently signed on with the Urban Libraries Council for their Declaration of Democracy, which is committed to policies and actions that preserve and protect democracy in communities. And specifically, what they're looking to do is support legislation that affirms the freedom to access library materials with diverse points of view, and to oppose legislation that seeks to restrict it. Got a short video here that's going to show you some of our services that we provide. I'm not hearing any audio, so I'll give you some of my expert narration. We have digital resources. We have Canopy, where you can watch videos. We have Rosetta Stone, which is language learning. Wall Street Journal, you can get access to that for free with your library card. And then Libby, we know about ebooks and audiobooks. And then Help Now BrainFuse was the job tutoring software that we talked about earlier, which also has a homework help component for younger users. So those are all things that your library can do for you. All right, now let's talk about some specifics for Lafayette Library. We are doing so many amazing things here at Lafayette Library. We're currently offering 4 story times. 2 of them are bilingual, Spanish and Mandarin language. We're hosting countywide outdoor explorer programs. These are averaging attendance of around 150 patrons. We're going to be looking to start 6-week Mandarin language learning classes in person here at Lafayette Library. That will be in June. We've restarted our technology and homework help programs, as well as our 3D printing workshops. We We also like to get out into the community. Outreach is a big part of librarianship. So this year we've tabled at the Art and Wine Festival, the Lafayette Trick or Treat, and It's a Wonderful Life in Lafayette. This has been a great opportunity for us to get into the community, because not only do we get to see those faces who are in our libraries, but more so we get to connect with those families who have just moved to Lafayette and have yet to come to our library. And it's a great way to get them engaged and into our building. Another outreach effort, we have done 56 in-person and virtual classroom visits, reaching over 1,200 children in 2022. Big advancements for Lafayette Library. These are purchases which are supported by our Friends group, who are incredibly supportive, not only in our equipment, but as well as our programming and ongoing operations at the library. Before I talk about these purchases, let's also talk about the foundation for the library. The Lafayette Library Foundation does a tremendous amount of support ongoing, which we'll talk about here in just a moment when we get to the fancy swell center. So the equipment, we have charging lockers. If you see in those pictures on the bottom right, that is an 8-unit bay, which you can use to charge your iPad or your iPhone and secure it here at the library. We've received the charging lockers this week, and we expect they're going to be going out on the floor any day now. Our other piece of new equipment, the AWE early computer stations. Those are early literacy stations that are in our computer area. There are 4 of them, and they are designed with STEAM-based software for children. They just went in on Friday, so those are hot and exciting. I mentioned the Swell Center. The Swell Center is the summer wellness program, which is located outside of the library, just in front of the building. It's operated by the Foundation for the Lafayette Library and Learning Center. They operate the Swell Center throughout the summer, and then also throughout winter break and spring break as well. They've hired facilitators who work with the students and teens of Lafayette who are out at those times and don't have school and are looking for a place to go and looking for a place to connect. And then lastly, we are partnering a lot with the Friends of the Library to host our sold out Wonders of the World programs. We work with the Friends closely to help them out and ensure that their programs are successful as they continue to host such amazing programs, author programs with Sweet Thursdays, and then the Wonders of the World programs that they have on Wednesdays. Lastly, let's talk about those awesome photos. Top left, our teen library assistant. That is her making weird things, crafting program. She loves doing fun, awesome, weird things with our kids. And then on the top right, that is LD, and she's dressed up for Halloween whenever we did our outreach visit. Bottom left, that's Bella Adana. She was our drag queen storytime guest, which we had here in this room, and it was incredibly successful. And then we talked about the charging lockers on the bottom right. All right. And that was it. Any questions for me from the council?
Yes, does council have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
The Declaration of Democracy, what
Mhm.
other libraries have done that, and library systems? I think it's novel and cool.
Yeah. So it's a Urban Libraries Council initiative. And so the Urban Libraries Council is a national organization. Many urban libraries around the country will belong to Urban Library Council as part of its listserv. I'm not entirely certain of what other library systems have signed on at this point. I can certainly find out and provide that information for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from council? Okay, is there public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa, did you have a question?
Yes, I have Sarah Blumenfeld.
Hi, I'm Sarah Blumenfeld, Development and Program Director with the Lafayette Library and Learning Center Foundation. And I'm really just here to show support for Rob. And since I'm here, I'll share how much we really enjoy working together. And the foundation, as you all know, has always valued the relationship between the Friends and the library. It's really, the community looks at us as the Lafayette Library. So we work hand in hand to make this place great. And I'm just really happy that Rob's here.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, any other public comments? Well, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, Rob, I just want to thank you for that presentation. We love our Lafayette Library. It's a wonderful gem. so many connections within the community that it keeps and makes. It's quite an asset, quite a resource. So thank you for all your work. Wait,
Right. I just also wanted to thank you for the presentation and glad to see that during the pandemic, you were able to make progress in the digital aspects and also coming out of the pandemic to really bring many more programs to life as we get back to in person. So thanks for the good work and keep it up and looking forward to participating in especially those Mandarin classes. I need a little bit of practice.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, for sure. And thank you all for having me.
Sure. And we have an item we've moved up. That's our, oh, yes, Teresa, sorry. I thought you were moving on this. Yes.
Sorry, I mean, of course, when we have something going on with the library, I just want to say thank you too. Thank you for the presentation. But with the three of you sitting there, I want to just really commend you. And it's so exciting how all three of the organizations that make our library a success, the Friends, the Foundation, and of course, the library with the librarian. And I want to thank publicly, I think, again, for working together on the Swell program. And so I was making a little note to visit the next time that the Swell is open during one of the breaks, which I guess at this point will be summer. So, which we're rapidly getting to the end of the year. So thank you very much and nice to officially meet you.
Thank you, Councilmember Geringer. We will move to item 16A that was moved up in our agenda. That is a consideration for a proclamation recognizing this week. Yes, before you run out, we moved this up so we keep you here. We are going to consider the proclamation recognizing April 23rd to 29th, National Library Week.
I am happy to make a motion, or do we want to get public
Yes,
comment?
any discussion? No, any questions or public comment?
I'll second your motion.
Okay,
In that case, all approved.
aye.
Aye.
And it is passed that this week, Council is recognizing the April 23rd to 29th as National Library Week at the Lafayette Library and Learning Center. Thank you. And please come and get this proclamation. Yes, thank you.
Hey, I know, right? Paparazzi showed up. That's a better background. For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you again. All right, we are now flip through here on to our consent calendar. Is there any items that any council members wish to pull?
I'd like to pull item 10F.
10F. Okay, the BART work plan survey. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone from the public would like to comment on the consent calendar or pull anything?
Mayor or Vice Mayor Dawson, I have no speaker slips and I see no hands raised. If any member of the public would like to address the council on an item on our consent calendar, you may raise your hand now. There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Okay. We
Move approval of the consent calendar items A through E and moving F to later on the agenda.
I second.
all agreed.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed to adopt the consent calendar with 10F to be discussed later. Okay. And is there any old business to be discussed? Not listed. So we will move on to item 12, staff report, Tracy Robinson.
I was just making sure the planning director will be here for the consent calendar item. Yeah. I really am going to turn this over to Casey Elliott with Townsend Public Affairs. The Ledge Committee and staff are presenting 4 bills, and we are recommending a support position on all of them.
Good evening, Casey Elliott. Okay.
I was just saying, welcome, Casey.
Good evening, Casey Elliott with Townsend Public Affairs. Before you on the council agenda tonight are 4 bills for consideration. I'll kind of go through all 4 of them if that's right, and then happy to answer questions on any or all of them. The first 2 are related to Brown Act proceedings, 2 measures that would make incremental changes. AB 557 Hart. This bill would eliminate the existing 2024 sunset as it relates to the AB 361 pandemic provisions. They would also extend the deadline or the notice requirement from 30 days to 45 days. The idea being if there is a reason or a need to go back and operate remotely under conditions of emergency, that this would provide a little bit more flexibility. Also would continue that in perpetuity, even if there are states of emergency beyond January 1, 2024, the legislature would need to do new legislation to reenact that. So AB 557 makes that incremental change as it relates to that provision of Brown Act. The next measure is AB 817. This measure goes a little bit further. This starts to provide the ability to participate in teleconferencing for non-decision making legislative bodies. So similar to as you were conducted during the pandemic, this would make it so members could participate through that 2-way without posting the local addresses, things along those lines, without opening up their homes or wherever they're remotely operating from. In turn, those bodies would need to make available a 2-way communication so public could participate, also need to notice how public could participate in that process, very similar to how you were operating during the pandemic. I should note both AB 557 and 817 are in the Assembly Local Government Committee. Those will be considered Wednesday with a number of other bills. So those will be the first policy committee hearings for those measures. AB 817 does have some broad support amongst Cal cities, CSAC, urban counties, rural counties. So that has a lot of local government support as well. Shifting gears a little bit, the next measure is SB 436 by Senator Dodd. This measure relates to wildfire mitigation planning. It would require the state through the Office of Emergency Services to prepare a couple of different reports and plannings on some different timelines. It would require a wildfire risk mitigation planning framework that could outline potential benefits that the state of actions that could be taken by the state to reduce wildfire risk. Again, this would be a statewide report, and that would need to be renewed every 3 years by the Office of Emergency Services. Additionally, it would require another report, the wildfire risk baseline and forecast, which that would be delineated on a state level as well as by county and by regions. That report would need to target specific mitigation actions that could be taken and metrics that could be measured to reduce wildfire risk, again, by state, county, and other regional geographic areas. So really trying to kind of become more local friendly and take in some more local aspects to wildfire prevention as opposed to just as a statewide. And then the third measure is a wildfire mitigation scenarios report. in which OES would need to put forth a reasonable range of possible scenarios for mitigation spending at the state level. So every year, for the last number of years, the legislature has and the administration have invested funding into wildfire mitigation and response. This would have OES kind of take a more comprehensive look forward, so there can be an overall planning strategy for how to effectively leverage those dollars. So again, the first report is an every 3 year. The second 2 reports are one-time reports in nature. This measure did pass out of the Senate and Energies and Utilities Committee about a week and a half ago, unopposed 15-0, and is currently in the Senate Appropriations Committee. And then the fourth and final measure before you is Senate Bill 834 by Senator Portantino. This is one of 2 housing bonds that currently exists within the legislature. This measure proposes to place a $25 billion bond, on the November 2024 general election ballot. That bond would be broken up into 2 primary components. There'd be a $18 billion component to increase homeownership opportunities by providing second mortgages to qualified home buyers looking for qualifying home properties. And then the second piece would be $7 billion, which would be targeted more for home building and construction. So as opposed to some previous bonds, this isn't necessarily just a home construction bond or a home ownership bond. This tries to kind of marry some of the two. Within the funding that would go for the second mortgages, this would expand that program a little bit more than what's currently seen at the state level. So it would qualify individuals who making up to 180% of AMI would qualify. Again, this would be for first-time owner occupants. They would need to complete some education and financial counseling courses. They would need to be looking at newly constructed homes, townhomes, condos, and then some other elements that need to have 15-year mortgages, things along those lines. The other piece, the $7 billion piece, there are requirements on how that funding could be spent for the new home construction, need to have qualifying properties. Again, largely, and I don't have it right in front of me, need to meet a certain percentage of area home value. So you can't just go out and do, large kind of expensive McMansions all around. It's really kind of more for missing middle is where this bill is going. As I noted, there is another bill by Assemblymember Wicks that she has a bond in the Assembly. It's a more modest than this version. I believe it's $10 billion, which would probably look more akin to things that we saw in 2006 and in previous actions. At some point, leading into next year, these two elements will need to be reconciled. So while I think this is a good investment proposal of invested funds at the state legislature, I would caution that the bill that you have before you is unlikely to be a bill that would appear on the ballot. I think at some point by time polling is done and they figure out everything else that wants to go on the ballot in March and November, that this would change a bit. So I would just say that as the city is considering taking a position on this, may want to think of this in the broader context, knowing that the specific details are likely to change over the next year or so. I would lastly note that the housing bond did move out of a Senate Housing Committee 8-2 last week. It's up in Governance and Finance later this week, and then it'll head to Appropriations in a couple of weeks thereafter. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions on any of these bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Do council members have questions for Casey? Councilmember Candell?
Hey, Casey, so the commissions that would be affected by 817, the decision-making bodies, right? That would be DRC and PC, correct? Okay, good. Just making sure I understood that. Of course, council isn't even in this, right? We still have to be there.
Correct.
Right. So 834, I did hear some other comments about it, and like you're saying it's going to change and stuff like that, but is this a time that we should take some opportunities to say, if if you were thinking about amendments, maybe this would be good. So there were pieces in there about so the 180% of AMI, I mean, that's just really high. It's like 240,000 in SF or something. It just seems like that just is such a big number. I don't know. And there also was wording in there that said that the house must be in an urban cluster or within 1 mile of public transit. And there also was a whole bunch of stuff about ministerial approvals. And that just seems like it's going beyond, I mean, we want to help a lot of people get into housing, right? And this just makes it so narrow, right? It's just, oh, you can only live in a TOD. Not really, but I mean, if you were trying to buy a house that was naturally affordable somewhere, it just seems like this should be much broader. It seemed like all the stuff, the super limitations on the type of housing, it's going to be dense multifamily housing near transit.
Yeah, I would say that for the construction portion of this, the priority is consistent with where other legislative vehicles have been in the last several years. So for example, within that language, there is some of the prevailing wage that we've started to see. Some of those provisions are in this bill right now on the construction side, which again would lead to presumably some increased costs associated with housing construction. To your question, I think that if there are suggestions or requested amendments elevating to concerns, that yes, this would be a great time to convey those to the author. I would say that the city could take a support position with suggested amendments, support if amended, support in concept. I think there's any kind of number of ways of essentially through development of the transmittal of the letter transmitting the position, laying out a couple of bullet points with some of those items. Because as I noted, there will be conversations. This language will change. What components I can't quite see that quite yet, but I think having concerns or suggested amendments on hand and committed and communicated to the author through that process is, that'd be a great idea.
Right. So I'd love to add, don't make the salaries so high, and don't make the housing so specific, right? Loosen it up. We want to get people into housing wherever it is, right?
So
Right.
may I ask a question? So you're suggesting, because the language that's here, and I'm still working on defining what the difference is, but it's skilled and trained workforce. It doesn't say prevailing wage. And I think there's currently a disagreement on what that means between actually even some of the folks who represent that group of people, the workers there. So I'm not sure what the amendment would be other than to keep it. Well, I don't know. I'll defer to Councilmember Kendall. And then on the Casey, will this, so you had said Assemblymember Wicks has a similar bill there. This would be going for being on 2024 currently, or they can actually, the legislature, remind me again, can put things on.
Yeah, so default for any voter initiative would be to be placed on a general election ballot. Same would be on legislative measures, unless the legislature wrote into the language that they would like their measure to appear on a primary ballot. So it is possible that you could see a housing bond in March, though I would say, and it's not unique, but since 2024 is a presidential year, the primary will be in March. Given the timing of elections, the legislature would need to reach consensus on these bills before they adjourn session this year.
Right.
If that doesn't happen, then just based on timing next year, it would naturally be on November's ballot. And thank you. Yes, it is the skilled and trained language that's in here, not prevailing wage, which are two different things. Which are yes.
Right.
So I'd be much more inclined to go support if amended, if the restrictions on the type and locations of the housing weren't so strict. Because somebody does a SB 9 project out more than a mile from transit, they can't qualify for this housing. And that's, to me, seems anti, like, with such a big bond. It's just way too specific.
Right. It seems like it also should align with zoning anyway, in a sense, so I could see where a refinement could be made, hope potentially.
Thank you for those comments, Councilmember Candels. When talking about the type of home, I also saw that the bill specifies that loans can only be made to properties that are newly
And
constructed,
newly constructed as well.
single-family homes, townhomes, row houses, condos, or manufactured homes. So it is all types of homes, but they all have to be newly constructed. So in my mind, this was a package to help, sort of the high cost of new construction right now to be more affordable for some set of people. Is that a good idea? Or should the monies be used for any home to get people into any home as opposed to a new home? I guess your ask is maybe to not limit it to just newly constructed homes.
You're right. It can totally be for new construction, but don't limit it quite so
Don't
much.
limit to that.
Yeah.
And there were some other conditions like the final sales price does not exceed an unspecified
Yeah.
percentage of median price of newly constructed, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there
I'm like-
probably was a whole reason to set that way, but I guess broadening it could be just not limiting it to new. And then as far as including more people in need, the 180% of AMI, average median income, if we just step back and say, what is 100% of average median income? You basically say, if everybody had 100% or less, that's half your population, right? So half of California would be eligible if the AMI were designated as 100%, but it's designated as 180%. So it means more than half of Californians, maybe it's 70 or 80% of Californians are eligible for this package. So the question is, if you spread $25 billion across so many people, is that really, or is that going to be enough money? Or it probably, could be more impact if you targeted it to 100% AMI, for example, half of Californians who were 100% or below. So I did find the 180% to be rather high, but again, without diving into all the nitty bitty detail, it's hard to know what was the intent of this. Certainly, it's helpful to help to provide housing, but anyways, just as to piggyback a little bit onto what's being said.
Yeah. And I would note that previous state mortgage assistance through Cali HFA have been around that 100% AMI. So yes, this proposal is a significant jump in who would qualify. Obviously, those making under 100% AMI would still qualify. They would just be competing against a broader pool of applicants for that assistance.
So do you have text that if we were to support this? Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
So it does actually have, to even muddy the water a little bit more, it does talk about condos and buildings where they've been retrofitted. And so it's not only brand new
They have to
use.
be close.
Am I reading that correctly?
They have to be an urban cluster within 1 mile of public transit.
Right, but when we were talking about only new.
Fair.
So I guess kind of back to the process for the bonds, I'm okay with a support with these amendments. I'm sure we could potentially have others, so maybe a support if amended or in concept maybe is where we are right now, because it does seem like we have sort of a lot of very specific ideas, and I appreciate the additional input. With the WICS bill, are you planning to bring that back to the Ledge Committee to look at, or is the thinking that this one's out there? And I know that Senator Portantino had another bill last year and maybe even the year before that to try and move forward with what's the big elephant in the room, is that we want affordable housing, but we don't have resources for that. And so I appreciate very much the concept on how we move it forward, and that the details will be worked out, including between the Senate and the Assembly bills, how everybody comes together, you know, on that process. And so I guess I'm curious, Casey, what your sort of recommendation is right now. Do we even continue to watch, or is it helpful to have that supporting concept as you go into the hearings?
Yeah. To the first part of your question, kind of one of the reasons I'm bringing this one forward and not the Wicks bill is, as you noted, Mr. Hertzberg last year had a very similar bond to this, which the city took a position on. So I kind of wanted to start from an area of familiarity. The Wicks bill at this point doesn't really delve into a lot of the construction. It gets into rehab, Joe Cerna farm working, refunding a lot of existing programs. So again, not that there isn't a lot of value in those things, but it's not as I would say new and as far reaching as this proposal. Not to say that, again, at some point, it wouldn't surprise me from a legislative standpoint, it's much easier to fund existing programs, kind of what you know. But I think, again, Senator Portantino is trying to, you know, cross that bridge of how can the state help promote the building of the construction of new housing and getting new homeowners into that housing. And so he has not identified necessarily existing state programs that he feels fit to bill, which is kind of why we end up where we are here. At some point, it may make sense to bring the Wicks bill to the city, to the council for consideration. Personally, I'd probably like to see whether these bills start moving and make it out of appropriations, because as I noted, it's realistically, they can have this conversation for another year before they need to do something to put it on the ballot. Senator Portantino, when we met with him earlier when the city was up in Sacramento, has been very, very good. Honestly, his staff has reached out to me wanting to know where you guys are on this bill. So the senator's very aware, his staff is very aware of your previous positions, wants to try to engage with the city, which is why I think at this point, perhaps making recommendations through amendments would be a good way, a positive communication with his office, a good rapport. Again, they're kind of looking for that feedback. So I think that we can provide that in a way that as he's going into those conversations may help, you know, shed a light. Again, we may not get everything that we ask for, but that's the legislative process and that's fine. And there may be additional elements that come through, but I think as those conversations occur, it'll be good to have the city's positions and those things that might make the bill even more attractive on the record, communicated with the senator's office. And then as he goes into those negotiations, we can see what comes out at the end. And if at that point we feel we need to modify our position, I'm more than happy to do so.
And may I just say one more thing? First of all, thank you, Casey, for that catch. It was Senator Hertzberg, not Senator Portantino. So thank you. I misspoke.
Thank you.
On my senators.
I just wanted to ask, would the legislative subcommittee like to work then with Casey on kind of furthering amendments? It is an opportunity if Senator Portantino's office is looking for feedback.
I think, do you have enough direction with what we just gave you?
Okay.
I think so. I think based on the conversation today, I'm kind of hearing the feedback. I think I can put these into some bullet points on suggested amendments. Happy to work through city staff or through the legislative committee before that gets finalized and make sure everyone's okay with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And tonight, when we vote on these recommendations, what is the actual recommendation now? Because we had come in with a support. Are we staying with
I
the
am
support?
kind of hearing maybe a support in concept is maybe kind of what I'm hearing.
Okay.
It sounds like that.
Okay.
Well, we'll get there. Okay, are there any other questions, council? Any public comment?
Any member of the public like to address the city council on item 12B or A, pardon me, 12A, the legislative items? Please raise your hand. Vice Mayor Dawson, I see no hands raised and I have no speaker slips.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, would you like to make a movement?
Do you want? So I would like to move that we accept the Ledge Committee and staff recommendation on all of the bills, except changing the recommendation on SB 834 Portantino to a support in concept. So we would be supporting AB 557, AB 817, SB 436 as full support positions, and SB 834 support in concept.
I second.
Thank you. All also agreed?
Aye.
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 Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Casey. And
Thank you all.
to
Thank you.
the subcommittee for your work and for all the information. Okay, we will move on to item 15C, the request from Commissioner. Oh, 12B, excuse me. City Attorney, consider council members' request to draft a lobbying ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Dawson. At a previous meeting, Councilmember Kendall had requested that the council consider adopting a lobbying ordinance. The goal of that ordinance would be to better identify whether public speakers are speaking on behalf of an organization and whether they're being paid by that organization. In your packet is a draft lobbying ordinance from the city of Beverly Hills. What we're looking for direction from you all tonight is whether you would like us to prepare a draft ordinance for your consideration at a future meeting. And I will now hand it over to Councilmember Kendall so she can give some additional information and background.
Thank you. And I just want to be a little bit clear that I wasn't looking for only for public comment for city council. I would look at it as a kind of a general, anybody lobbying our city, which includes commissioners and maybe even staff, that they have to register as a paid lobbyist. That's the direction I would like to take it in. And so why this happened is that back in 2016, Beverly Hills City Council created a Sunshine Task Force, and it was aimed at better transparency and accountability at all levels of their city government, not just city council. And it was a task force, was 2 city council members plus a whole bunch of residents, and it actually continues to this day. They've tackled many transparency issues with the city, and one of them resulted in this lobbying ordinance. And so for me, this is really consistent with our commissioner's conflicts ordinance in that there's a money line. You know, it only crosses when you pass the money line. And if somebody is being paid to come and lobby us and try to influence our decisions, and they're getting paid for that I think we should know, right? Because that's different from a person coming up and is passionate about something and is a volunteer and it's doing, and they're very passionate. But if you're getting paid to go do it, to me, I would want to know. And just because it changes the perspective that you can't just look at maybe the person talking, you look at the whole organization that is funding, their talking points. And I think a lot of people in this community would like that. I think a lot of people would like the fact that if somebody's coming, we've tackled a lot of tough things, our gun safety ordinance, we've done, the e-cigarette stuff, and there's been a lot of people that come in, and I don't know if they're paid lobbyists or if they're just passionate about it. And I would like to know the difference. Anyway, so this is why I brought it forward. I wouldn't limit it just people speaking at public meetings for city council. I think a lot of stuff happens in our city, and this would just it would be like the Sunshine Task Force. It's, shine some sunshine on people's, the preferences and their biases coming into a meeting if they're being paid.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing this forward. Any questions or talk about this discussion here?
I think I'd like to wait until after public comment.
Okay.
Because I have some questions, but also probably they will move into sort of debate and discussion, not debate, but.
Okay, I have a question. Aside from seeing this example, do you feel like that's affected us here in recently, or felt that it could have, but we weren't aware?
I do believe that we're getting, because of a lot of the things that we're tackling, we are getting a lot of outside interest. That I do think is something that is happening, that is different. And because everything's so open and everybody's looking at everything now, it just does seem like we're getting a lot more attention.
Right. So we'd want to be transparent. We'd want people who are coming to us. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for bringing this. It's very interesting to hear and certainly something I'm interested in. Aside from the Beverly Hills, are there other cities that are have implemented this type of ordinance, and in anybody in Contra Costa County, for example?
I actually don't know.
I know it's usually larger cities that implement these type of ordinances. I'm happy to follow up and see if any cities in Contra Costa have done it, but it's typically larger cities.
Okay,
San
sure.
Francisco, LA, those type of cities.
Thank you.
And just another question, have you considered like how this would, what does it look like actually?
Apparently they would go register and then we would get a notification of who they are and who they represent. And when they come to a meeting, they would say who they are and who they represent. But we would know if they're being paid by them or not. Is that how they are? Or they would have to be that? Apparently that's how it.
Correct. And I do want to clarify in Beverly Hills ordinance, and I don't know if this is what you had intended, Councilmember Kendall. For instance, if you had an applicant who was coming before the city for just a traditional hillside development permit, their team, such as their architect, their lawyer, who we know in general are being paid, would have to register. And I'm not sure that's
No, that's
your
not what I'm.
intent.
No.
Exactly. So I would
In
hope-
normal business on their own application. No.
Right. So I think if you did want to move forward, I would want to exclude those type of situations because I think it's pretty clear and I would just it would create an additional
Correct.
burden on everyone.
Correct. But if somebody came in and was trying to lobby against that or, for it or against it, and they were being paid, that I would want to know.
And maybe the way we had previously talked about it is if it's you're lobbying on behalf of an organization. And I think what will be clear is we would need to define organization, right? Because that someone's going to be paying you. But in theory, Councilmember Kendall, let's say the neighbor hired an attorney and didn't want the project. Would we want that person to register? You can see it's pretty broad.
Attorneys they would have to register.
The way, I mean, it depends how.
I mean, as soon as an attorney comes in, we know they're being paid.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
like certain, attorneys, architects, there's a lot of people who we know are getting paid, but the way this is drafted, it's drafted pretty broad. So if
Okay.
there is a desire to do it, my suggestion would also be to narrow it so that we
Yes.
wouldn't take on people that I think it's pretty obvious that are getting paid.
Right. Thank you.
Just another question, if short of this, a type of new policy, well, it still would be a new policy, but could this be something that could be drawn out of just say simply a public comment slip where that you're from an organization that, would that, just so we know, let's say if someone comes off the street and not necessarily, there's probably different ways people will come up and do public comment or lobby. Maybe those who are prepared to talk about, maybe those who just found out, oh, here's the agenda when it come out, take advantage of that item, wouldn't be able to register
Maybe.
in time.
Sure.
From council, any public comment questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Gary, I need to sit back, I suppose. I apologize.
It's okay. I will, at some point, if I was concerned, I would have done it or something. I guess one of the questions I'm still sort of torn on whether I, start sort of, and I think that's what I'm going to do. One of the big questions is what is the problem that we're trying to solve? You started to touch on it, but I'm still not sure what that is. Where we talk about already when we have, now I might be crossing over into after public comment. I'll wait for public comment, but the big question for me in looking at this is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Because how does this differ from the requirements that lobbyists have to to register already. So if, and it's above 1,000, I mean, there are all these different rules. I mean, present company sitting in the room is, firm is registered lobbyist. So I guess I'm, and I did do some research, and it is primarily the big, actually, I'll hold until after. I'll wait on public comment. I do have probably lots of thoughts.
Great, thank you. All right, now we can see if there's public comment, please.
Vice Mayor Dawson, I have no speaker slips for item 12B. If any member of the public would like to address the city council on this topic, please raise your hand now. There are no hands raised, Vice Mayor Dawson.
Okay, Councilmember Geringer, do you want to
Okay.
proceed?
So again, as we discuss, I do look forward to, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Very much about open government and transparency. And I believe that the lobbying rules as they are at the state level and that govern, our work are already there. I did Beverly Hills there. Anyway, I found I can help you, I'll send you the thing, but I found several different groups, and it was sort of a register only if it gets above 1,000. We also are, as a protocol, I don't know that it's in our bylaws or administrative rules, we declare ex parte. So if we're talking to anyone like in a housing land use decision or almost anything where we're going to be in a quasi judicial role, we declare that. We say, oh, we met with all of the neighbors. And so I guess my big question is, why do this now? What are we trying to protect ourselves or residents from? And maybe this is from all of it, from that existing laws don't already do. And then once we get into, if we decide as a body that we want to have an ad hoc committee or look at this or give direction to staff to come back to us, how do we distinguish between nonprofits? Because a lot of people who come to talk to us, I thought that this was really more about public comment. And thank you for expanding to public comment to all of our commissions and committees. But nonprofits have to declare under their nonprofit 501c3 if they're doing anything advocacy related. So we could get access to that. We could request that through public records. It just, it feels like something that maybe I don't understand what the magnitude is. It feels like we're looking for something that isn't a problem. Because then also, yeah, so I just want to understand more. I look forward to the discussion. And there are, there's lots of information. The different governance groups have talked about the positives and all of that, but one of the main questions is why?
Thank you. Any other comments?
I see why, like I said, I think we are as a city just getting a lot more attention than we used to. I'm feeling that. And I just seem to, if these groups really are coming in and talking to our commissioners and talking to us and talking even to our staff, I think the public has a right to know, right? And I want to know who they are, and people will want to know who they are trying to influence us. And I'm it's purely for transparency and purely just because I think we're just getting a lot more attention. Maybe that'll go down because we're all Zoom now. I don't know. Maybe it was just a pandemic thing. I don't know, but I felt it a lot during that time that people were really paying a lot of attention to Lafayette more than we have. So I just, and then I saw this, I went, oh, this would be a great way to distinguish the paid versus a not. I mean, you're a nonprofit. We can go through that, but it's, and I guess the nonprofits do get paid people. Yeah. So they probably would be. Yeah.
And
Right.
it's reported under
Right.
H, and I mean, I don't want to go down the whole thing. sorry, may I, Vice Mayor? In every meeting, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like every person who has spoken to us, whether they are residents or they are outside folks, have introduced themselves and said who they represent and what their organization is. And in doing just sort of a little bit of research today and looking up some of the folks, you know, who have come to speak to us about housing primarily and housing and land use and housing. I didn't find any of those sort of groups on that lobbying list that, you know, Townsend or others would be on. And so, again, I just, I appreciate the wanting to have the transparency and everything, but I just, I feel like it's a sort of a solution looking for more of a problem. Yeah, anyway.
Well, thank you. And again, I think this is great. I appreciate that. The transparency that we want to bring and the sunshine to how we make decisions and what goes into that, the contributors. I think for now, my thought would be in a way mirroring Councilmember Geringer's that we have that now. And maybe what we can do is just tighten down and as commenters do come, make sure that they are declaring who they are and what they represent as either as a resident or what, because we seem to be doing that. But if you feel that that's not happening, then maybe that's something we remind our commissioner or commissions to make sure that they're getting a public comment so that something doesn't slip in that we're not aware of. Because
It sounds great. To me, it's if they're being paid. You know, that to me it's a line, right? That it means it's their job, you know, and rather than just being their own interests necessarily, right? I like knowing that.
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And there's no way
Mala,
to get that, I don't think.
yeah, I'm wondering if that is something, if it is as not necessarily simple, but is that something we can add as a line to our speaker slip? You know, are you representing yourself or someone else, so to speak? And it is
You can add it. They're not required to
right.
disclose. And
Okay.
for instance, someone's not required to disclose whether they're a resident of the city or not. That doesn't mean you can't ask and factor that in if someone chooses not to disclose, but they are allowed to not disclose.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the discussion, everybody, and for raising this interesting topic. I mean, to me, I'm just trying to do a cost benefit analysis because certainly there's a benefit, but there's also cost in terms of the amount of workload and just friction that's added to every conversation we have and everybody, right? And everybody testifying must learn this this set of rules and file some paperwork, and then what happens and what's the enforcement. So I do think it's sort of there's a cost to trying to extract this bit of information. And so I would then look to Councilmember Geringer's comment, like what's the problem? How big is the problem? I would say that when we see people coming in, we probably can screen 90% are the usual residents who are coming in speaking on behalf of themselves. And if it's another corporate or other, we'll know who's not the usual person here. So whether they've declared themselves as being paid or not, I think we already know this person is, not one of the usual persons here. And that doesn't make their voice any less valuable or more valuable. But I think as a matter of disclosure, or I think I'm not sure. I think I haven't seen a problem with those participants yet so far. But anyways, I haven't come to a decision on this one way or the other. It's good that we're looking at it. I'm just concerned about spending our time just from a cost benefit and even staff time to research it further and so forth. So so I would say it doesn't strike me something that we should urgently have staff use time to work on at the moment. If there's some easy wins that we could learn more, like how many cities are doing this out of 480 cities, if there are 240 cities doing it, then I'd say let's look at it. But if it's 6, then maybe that would, give me some ideas, like maybe this is not the thing to put our time to, even though it's valuable. and I'd love to know it if there was no cost to it.
Mhm.
So maybe that would be sort of a light ask of staff, just to see this type of ordinance. How prevalent is it in other jurisdictions, let's say either statewide or in the county? And if there are such examples that we could learn from, but maybe that's the direction I would offer to staff.
Yeah, and I think that is a good direction to move forward, just with that top line information as to where that might sit in general, how many people might have that. And then in the meantime, us as a council body and just monitor our as we see people and how often that might be something that does come up that we have to distinguish. So I think I would leave it at that, just to find out the top line information and appreciate the example, because that is something, if we should need to move forward at some point, we have it to move forward on. So thank you. Oh, yes, you may.
First of all, thank you, Mala. In the staff report, it does talk about code enforcement. And thank you, Councilmember Kwok. I had enforcement also on one of my list of things. Could prove challenging and could add additional expenses. And you suggest that and I hear that we're probably going to continue to watch to see if this is a problem. But what would a simplified enforcement provision be? Because in a lot of the things that I read over the last, couple of days while researching this, that was the big piece that made it difficult.
I think it would just be administrative citations like we have for other violations of our municipal ordinance. And then, as I think you're all aware, our code enforcement is complaint driven. So we wouldn't be seeking out and researching these issues. Someone would have to complain, and then this would get processed, according to priorities of the code enforcement officer and what else the code enforcement officer is working on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on that note, we will close that and move on to our next agenda item, which is public hearings, which there are none, but there is on the next item, items removed from the consent calendar. That was the TOD BART survey. So thank you for being here, Mr. Wolf.
Happy to be here.
Okay, I think what I'll do, Councilmember Candell, did you have a question?
Hello, how do you want to do this? Should I just ask questions or? Okay, great.
Please.
So thank you for doing this. I think that the responses were very well written. My two concerns is having them start so early and having us as a city. I kind of look at this situation kind of like all the traffic stuff we've been doing. We go out and we send the cart out and we didn't bring the public along with us. Right. And so this is a big policy change, and it's going to happen like next year. And I don't think that we have brought the people along with us on this. And I get afraid that that's going to hit us in the face again. And so to me, I would be much more comfortable with, because we were going to go back and like do the safety element EIR and talk about the whole evacuation route things. We were going to go and possibly do an overlay for this. All the things that Lafayette was thinking about doing. So I totally agree with the other item, going out and getting the parking stuff, that money for the parking thing, but to get a plan, in order to roll this out and be effective for our next housing element, I would be much better to have kind of a plan, bring it to the public and say, this is our plan, bring them with us and then go. I just think this one's going to be like going out and getting the grants without educating everybody what the grants were going to be for. And so to me, I don't think I think it's premature to send in this huge list that gets us back on their thing and they're starting to process us before we bring the public along. That's my worry. I think we have time. It's not in our current cycle. We're going to get it for our next housing element and we'll do it by then. I just think we should definitely bring the public along. That was my concerns.
Do you have any other questions? Councilman Geringer?
Well, first of all, thank you. I also think that this was very well written and also that it is very much in alignment with what we as a council had asked or directed staff to do when we were working on the housing element. And we said we want to move forward with getting as BART part of, there were a number of things, you know, the fire zone. Also, we were not going to get approved by HCD for the BART property because we weren't on their work plan. We were advised that we weren't on there. And as a council, we directed staff to move forward with participating in this survey to be part of BART's work plan. And thank you, Councilmember Kendall. To your point, it was about being able to move things forward so that we're not in the same place when we begin, which feels like it's going to be tomorrow, right? When we begin to look at the next cycle. I know it's not tomorrow, so don't have anybody, hopefully doesn't say she thinks it's tomorrow, but it'll go by very quickly. And that this process will also take time. And so when I looked at this and having it be on consent, I actually made a note that it is in alignment with what we were moving forward with. And the public has very much been engaged, even some people outside of the public, as we were just discussing in the last item, very much engaged in the housing plan. They may not agree that we should move forward with looking at and be getting moved onto the work plan, but those conversations will continue to take place as we move forward. I think what we're doing here is in alignment with what we had asked staff to do in terms of engaging and continuing to engage with BART as they had been before we decided we weren't going to put it into the opportunity sites.
Councilmember Quack, did you want to add something?
Are we doing questions or are we going to
Well,
take questions from the public?
We're
maybe-
doing questions, but appreciate that. So if you have questions.
I don't have any questions, so maybe I'll just wait until after the public
Okay.
comment and then I'll also make some comments to the discussion.
I have a question about the survey in general. So Councilmember Geringer was mentioning we chose to participate. Is that a discretionary thing or is that something that all, people potentially on the work plan are just, here's your survey, what are you planning on doing type of thing? Or
It is not a mandatory item. It is purely voluntary, but I think any jurisdiction that wanted to be in the work plan, it behooves them to provide feedback to BART so to inform that work plan.
Thank you. And another question I noticed, this is just working on a pre-development plan. It's clearly just, they're looking for survey information and we're giving them that.
Correct. This
Okay.
would not be a commitment to any specific project, just an indication that in the next timeframe, Lafayette would like to be considered. There are currently cities in this timeframe that we sit in today that previously have been slotted in here, but are not prepared to move forward for one reason or another.
Okay.
So it's not a commitment. It's an indication, if you will.
And in 2024, when we hope to start this pre-planning with BART, we would have our normal process of including the public in terms of, what kind of planning we would do if it comes before council as an agenda item.
Yes,
Just-
we would implement the council's direction and have public engagement throughout. So we would do that.
Thanks for your confirmation. Okay. Any public comment?
If any member of the public would like to address the city council on this item, please raise your hand now. Vice Mayor Dawson, I have no speaker slips and no members of the public that wishing to address the council.
Thank you. Okay, we can continue the discussion. I think Councilmember Quack, you mentioned.
Yeah, sure. So if this purpose of doing this is to get ourselves in the TOD, because the last TOD we had said we don't want to be part of it, so they put us into the future. So we were not included, and therefore, when it came time for us to want to include some of our RENA numbers into the BART parking lot, it wasn't going to be realistic that we couldn't include it because we were not in the next window of the housing element overlapping with the TOD from BART, right? So that was sort of the quandary I felt we were in by not being part of the transit-oriented development plan. And by, our past message had been that we really did not want housing on the BART. And so that was the position of the city for many years. And I think we were rather high profile about it. So they said, fine, we'll put you at the back of the line. But with the changes of the RENA numbers, and I think our community did in the last 2 years go through a lot of effort to rethink the BART parking lot. We've had really extensive conversations where I think at the very end there, we did want to put some RENA housing numbers 825 onto the parking lot. And I think that was really the will of the community, was to try to include that. But because we did not have ourselves lined up in the TOD for BART, that was just not going to be likely that the HCD would accept us right into the RENA numbers. So I do think we have, that's where just mentally, I'm just trying to walk and find out where we are. But I think that we did say, and I remember Vice Mayor Nduri saying, well, in the next cycle, let's definitely be sure that we get into the transit-oriented development plan. Let's be sure we publicly state that we are interested in developing our parking lot, so that BART does know that Lafayette has changed its position at this juncture, and that the current council and our community favors using the BART parking lots as an opportunity to be included in future housing elements. Now, exactly how that's going to actually look, we have yet, that's a long journey still, but one of the first steps was to at least include it in the TOD. Otherwise, we'll have the same problem next time, which is we'll get a big number and it'll have to go elsewhere, right? So I feel that the staff moving forward to complete this is a timely exercise to get us the message out that we would like to participate. And so I do agree, and philosophically, with Councilmember Kendall's statement that we definitely want to bring the community along. This is a big, as we've seen, it's a big emotional decision for our city, and it's not an easy one that not everybody's aligned on it. That's for sure, right? Not everybody wanted it, and there were very, very vocal voices on every side. But I do think we'll have to bring the community along. But I also think that we have crossed the bridge where we have pivoted our position of support to say we do want to be part of TOD, and I would fall then, therefore, I come to the conclusion then that this is the right thing to do now, and to go ahead and submit this, and to get us in the TOD at least. Otherwise, we would be limiting our options in the future, and time is of the essence, because it takes a lot of time to get into the TOD. Anyways, thank you.
And while I agree that we are going to do this, that is not the discussion, right? It's whether we do it now and today and take a little time to get to tell people we are going out to put this on ourselves on their TOD list. And the timing thing, we're not in this housing element. We have like 16 years to get it built, right? And so does that mean that we should take this effort today, when I think a lot of our public would be very surprised that we took this decision right now, because we didn't really even advertise it. And that's why I get concerned. And I think we're going to get blowback on that. And that's why I would either ask them not to start working on it in 2024, but maybe on 2025, or delay saying we want to be on this to bring more people along to say that we've actually submitted this. I just feel like we haven't got, with nobody commenting here means nobody knew about it. Right. And I think that it's a risky thing in our city because we do want to do this, but we want to bring people along. And we get nailed. We've been getting nailed when we don't do that very right. And I see this as one of those situations where we're just not handling it very well. When is this due? Like for us to submit this survey?
The survey responses are due April 28th.
Oh, April 28th. Doesn't give us a lot of time to get the word out. So
No, and I'm just want to make sure I'm understanding. This is basically just a survey so that BART can start considering what their work plan will be. It doesn't necessarily say you are going to be in the work plan, or
we're
does
asking
it?
them to start working on it next year.
Well, we'll be working with them in 2024, which means the public will be also working along with us as well. We would bring this, it would be a council item. So I'm just saying that we will bring the public along.
How does that happen? I just don't know the process, right? And I just think that we don't know what that looks like. The public doesn't know what that looks like. And so we're not giving a lot of confidence to them on how this is going to go down. And that's my concern, right? You asking that question means that we don't know how this looks. And so I'd feel much better if we knew what this really meant, and what is going to be the plan for these next couple of years, and then look at that and go, we like that. That's good, right? We're going to do this and this and this, and we're doing the parking part. We're going to do the safety element EIR. When BART starts working on this, what does that look like? These kind of questions.
But doesn't that pend anyway a developer, just like any?
No, this doesn't, right? This is all the backup work, right?
Well, I mean, a particular project for.
No, this is just to get on their TOD plan, right? That's what this is saying. It doesn't mean that we're looking at a project. We're just planning to be ready for a project, right?
Right.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
So it is being in some way very early stage of indication to begin a journey. And I think there'll be several opportunities for the public and the council to weigh in, and if the community and the council deem it appropriate to stop moving forward by not funding a given component or not giving staff direction to move forward with something. So I think there's ample opportunities. Again, it's not a commitment, but an indication so that we could be considered for a TOD project, whereas currently essentially we could not, because we have not been, our prior indication when the 2018 was that we believed that the community wanted to be considered as a long-term project, which BART reflected in their work plan. And I think we know how that has played out, and Councilmember Kwok spoke to that. So this is, I think, consistent with the BART's 2020 work plan, in that we were slated to potentially be developed in a post 2030, and the preliminary steps that would be necessary would start during this housing cycle, so that we could set the stage for capitalizing on it in the next cycle. So I can't speak to the exact steps and timeframes for a project to move forward, but it is a multi-year project with ample opportunity for council direction to either continue to proceed down that course of action or to stop for the time being.
So at this point, then, I think it's a matter of whether do we need to take a a movement on this? Okay. Would anybody like to make a move? There's no more comments, a movement?
So I am ready to make the motion, but I do also want to make the comment that this is in alignment with the direction that the council gave during the development and as we were working on our housing element, and that it's part of a 10-year plan. So we're saying, yes, we want to be in those conversations beginning next year. And that's part of the whole development of this plan. Also, in looking through this, it's a 2-year cycle, even before you get to doing any RFPs or RFQs for developers. And so I'm ready to make a motion to direct staff to submit the survey responses to BART staff, because I believe that it is in keeping with direction that we have given. And that we will have multiple opportunities to engage the public before any shovel or anything happens. And there isn't a grant specific component to this. That was the other item that we had. Okay. So anyway, I make that motion.
Thank you. Before the next, I just want to say it was well said. I agree, and I appreciate how you framed it as well as an indication that, yes, we want to move forward with that, looking forward to Bart's plan of the next 2030 on, that we want to be prepared for that. And that has been part of this ongoing conversation with council and the public. So this isn't a commitment, but it's a commitment to what it's going to be specifically, but to that we want to be a part of that growth, and we do want to prepare for it with the obviously public input. And it's interesting because the other item on the consent calendar, the parking management, that matters too, and that should be part of what we'll be considering as we start working with BART. Very important part.
So is there any way that I can add to that? So we would approve this, but we make a really big effort to put this into like the weekly roundup or some publication so that the public knows we just took this action, right? It's not just sufficient that's on this agenda and everything, but make it a big deal so people know we just did that. And so I just want to make sure the public is being brought along with this. And so they're not going to go, oh, wait, when did we get on there? It's like, no, we got to tell them that we just did this. And I think that will help. We may get a flurry of stuff, but at least we got it today, and we're not getting it 6 months from now. And they're yelling at us, you didn't tell us you did this. Right? That's how we get on topper. That's how we get on these grants, right?
I can appreciate that, because I also want to make sure, Greg, with you bringing it forward and it, just to make sure that that's all transparent, that, this is part of the plan, that, council knows what the plan is and knows the public will be brought along and didn't come out of the blue. It's something that's part of our path forward on working with BART. So Narup, how might we express that then? Okay.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
I'll
for that
second
work.
the motion then. That's on the floor.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. So we can should we do a roll call on that or, okay. Let's see, are we going, by alphabetical? Okay. Councilmember Geringer. Oh, Councilmember Candell. Oh, forgetting
No.
my alphabet. Councilmember Geringer.
Aye.
Councilmember Kwok.
Aye.
And I am an aye. It is a 3-1. So the motion passes to submit that survey. Thank you very much.
We'll submit. Thank you.
Oh,
And-
along with the public notice,
So,
that action. Thank you.
and if I could add, I think it's great. I think that Suzanne has been doing a great job putting summaries of our actions. And so I think that they are kind of two separate things, but I think we should continue as much as we can at getting the word out about what we're doing here. So
Thank you. Okay, so we will close that item, and we are now at agenda item 15, council members' reports. Anyone?
Can we talk about Earth Day? What a wonderful day we had yesterday in the park. And I thought that we had yesterday 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We celebrated Earth Day. Thank you, Sustainable Lafayette, for being the host organization. And it moved from the library area down to Plaza Park, and there were just so many children there. Music. It was really terrifically vibrant, and unlike any previous year, I think it was almost like triple the attendance. So it was actually the same exact number of booths, even though it seemed like a lot more booths, but it was 38 booths, the same number. And I think it was really a great opportunity for the community to get together, and many educational booths that were there. So very well done, and bravo to all those who participated.
Thank you. Anyone? Councilmember Kendall?
It's not on a future agenda, but probably will be on the future agenda. The roundabout at Olympic. Can we also include something to the public that this is a pilot and we are going to be taking all of this out, right? Soon. Do we have a plan for that?
I have to go back. I think the council wanted it to go on for an extended period of time.
No, because we
The
have to do
pilot.
the resealing project, right?
We were gathering
So you
data.
were going to go.
Gather data, but let's make sure
Yeah.
that people know that this is a pilot.
Absolutely.
It's
It's
not
going to be part of my presentation to you. I just want.
perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I almost forgot. I wanted to, for a future agenda item, if it's the will of the body, to bring back considering making in alignment with the federal holidays, Juneteenth, a holiday, a Lafayette City recognized holiday going forward. And I think that would best be brought back.
Thank you for bringing that. I have an update. Did the MCE board meeting, actually, Casey, can you stay for a moment? Oh, actually, I don't know if I can talk, but one of the items that came up in their legislative update was AB 914, and I sent a message.
And he's received it.
Oh, good, because that's something that we want to kind of confer on, I think, to make sure as a city and then all the other cities, it'd be nice to bring back if there's something we should be more mindful of. A 914 is a bill that basically, and that's what I wanted clarity on. Maybe Casey, yeah, you can better explain it because I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, that bill would provide CEQA exemptions for new electrical projects that aim to create new and disperse new energy to help the state meet with the various clean energy initiatives. I would note, I say that now. The bill was up in committee today. I think they were going to take some amendments to remove electrical substations and transmission lines, some of the things that are notoriously hard to get through CEQA. But overall, the purpose of the bill is to expedite getting new power, new clean power into the grid to help meet all the state mandates that are coming.
Thank you very much. And it's great. In theory, it makes sense to expedite clean power and energy, but in practice, it posed a concern for local control over that, right of way. And if it's expanded upon, what that could mean, different land use impacted. So MCE paused and asked cities if they wanted to bring it back to their cities. And we said, yeah, we want to get more information because we happen to have an example of the gas substation going in a residential area. And it was, whether it was exempted from CEQA or didn't quite go through it, it does impact the land use and obviously the safety of the neighborhoods and different things. So it's one of those things where we just wanted to keep track, and other cities were of the same mind. So thank you. And It sounds like Casey, yeah, will it come back with amendments? Okay. Yeah, thank you. So they were kind of stepping back. The other thing is Recycle Smart. We are working with some of our city folks, downtown businesses that were impacted by a new fee, a push-pull fee, they call it. Outside of 25 feet, they are business people we're going to be charged for every time the garbage guy got out of the car, out of the truck to go get the garbage. And some of these folks that were outside of that acceptable range get their garbage picked up maybe every day each week. And it was costing them 5 times what they normally would pay. And it would put out a lot of these businesses, definitely like donut shops and small tie shops, you name it. But we're addressing that from the Recycle Smart angle, and that will be coming back. So just wanted to keep you apprised if you hear that from business owners as you're in town, that we're working on it. And I think that's it. Any other council updates? Okay. Oh, yeah. Wait,
I forgot. I've actually taken an interest in how we can do, as we have more density in our downtown core, how do we have businesses and residents all at the same time? And our Chamber of Commerce has expressed a concern and a worry that if we develop that, some of the new developers that come in may just build housing without and sort of drive our businesses out of the core. So how could we have multi-use? And I've heard, I'm sort of new to this, I'm learning in this area, but I've heard some developers just like to do one or the other, but mixed use is actually not one that's a little more difficult to do. So I've asked City Manager Srivatsa to see if we could, in the months ahead, learn more from developers who do know how to do excellent jobs at having mixed use development, because there are many horror stories of how you can do it badly. And, I'm more interested in the success stories of how you do it well. It's challenging, but when we think about a great future for our downtown, I'd love to just help us all envision what that great future would be. So City Manager Srivatsa has already arranged, we've done one meeting so far. And this Wednesday, I will be doing a walking tour with a developer who is specialized in mixed use, and the city manager will accompany me on the walk. But I think the goal of, anyways, my interest in trying to meet the right type of developers is to find a few that we could then have them come to give presentations to us, to give us examples of their projects and how do they pencil out, how do they work, and then just to give us an idea of how we could design and do our downtown specific plan that may have a more likelihood of having achieve our vision of a vibrant downtown core and so on and so forth. So anyways, that's just a long-term project that I'm interested in. Hopefully we'll bring some of the best ideas to all of you here.
Thank you.
So
Let me just tag on to that. Did you want to tag on to that?
well, it was just in terms of how it relates to how items get on our future agendas. I would be supportive of, because I think that's part of what we do here is agree and have consensus on what items come. And I think we all want to know about mixed use projects and how that relates. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, and thank you, because I was able to participate in that first meeting, that economic development angle lends itself well, because it's not just the building, but it's who might be attracted to coming into those buildings. So I'm wondering how we can eventually layer that part in terms of developing the relationships, whether it's with the property, who that is, to figure out how to attract the customers, basically the businesses that would want to go into those buildings once they're built. Like so many factors. Okay, City Manager Srivatsa.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Dawson. Can Casey be excused?
I'm so sorry. Casey, thank you so much. I'm so sorry to drag you back.
He's welcome to stay.
Now you may sneak out. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Just a few things from city departments. First, the police department participated in the Special Olympics track and field event at Acalanes High School last Friday, and we had officers there escorting the torch into the opening ceremony, cheering on the athletes, and even helping in handing out the ribbons. So it was a really positive event. We are getting several comments on the roundabout, mostly critical, and Patrick will be reaching out to the Bicycle Coalition, who has offered to at least suggest some changes, and we want to make sure that we hear from everyone. And Council Member Candel, your point is well taken. We should keep messaging what this is about, that it's a pilot project, for how long, and so that people know, the scope of it and the timing. Additionally, I have asked Chief Aldridge to increase enforcement in that area, because people are speeding despite the lane merger into one lane. We were out there on Friday, and it's scary. People drive 40 miles an hour to merge and up to the roundabout, and it's certainly they should be slowing down. But we will keep on top of it. We're getting comments. Matt is looking at it, and we'll continue to publicize. Good news that Congressman DeSaulnier has added the West Reach Creek project to his list of appropriation requests, the entire amount that we had asked for, which is $900,000. And Senator Padilla has added to his list the West Reach project, as well as the feasibility and design study for the East Bay Mud Aqueduct right of way. Now, this is only step one in a very lengthy process. Things could change, but since Casey's here, I just have to give him a shout out. He filed the applications for us, and I'm sure he walked around on the corridors and did a bit of lobbying for Lafayette. So good news indeed. And finally, wanted from Parks and Recreation, for the first time ever, the rec program revenues have surpassed $2 million. And it's in part to the return of to the school district and all the on-site and off-site enrichment programs, Camp Awesome. But it's a milestone, and it's a huge achievement. On that note, I will end.
Thank you. Narup, I just wanted to add the Olympic Oaks Homeowners Association down there might be really good to get in touch with. They're the ones, in general that see a lot of those speeders, and yeah, thank you. Okay, item 15C, Councilmember Gallagher and Candel. This is a request from Commissioner Hayden for a 4 to 5 month leave of absence. So which one of you would like to take that up? Okay.
Are you on?
Thank you. In the packet, you see the written note from Commissioner Lynn Hedane from our Transportation and Circulation, and then Clerk Robbins added 2 public comments earlier today. So the request, and both Councilmember Candel and I asked, is there a sort of protocol for this type of request? And City Manager Servat said we didn't really have one. And so we decided to bring it to the council. There's a request for 4 to 5 months. You'll see in the public comments that somebody said, maybe do 6 months. And for the record, for those who may not know, Commissioner Hedane is recuperating closer to her daughter, I believe, and or granddaughter, and has asked for that break at some point. She may be able to participate in Zoom meetings, but that we know there's a limited number of those that she would be able to do. So I would recommend that we give actually, I want to back up. I am going to recommend, but just to make sure that we know how many members currently does the transportation and circulation have, not counting vacancies, how many?
We have 6 members, including Commissioner Hedane.
Okay,
So there are 5 currently.
okay. And I mean, it would still with giving her, so there are 6.
It's a
No.
7-member
Thank you.
body. Thank you.
Thanks. That was the question I was trying to, that's okay. And there is another vacancy in addition to the one that we may or may not approve in just a moment, which is a leave of absence. So currently that would still give us a quorum for the Transportation and Circulation Commission to be able to conduct their business. And we are trying to recruit to fill that other vacancy. So with that information and with the long years of service that Commissioner Hedane has given to the Transportation and Circulation Commission and also to the community, I would move that we grant the extension for 6 months and that we revisit it at that time.
So just in agreement with Councilmember Geringer, I do think this is it's a very exceptional situation. It's a real help, a serious health emergency that she has had, and her years of knowledge, institutional knowledge, everything. She really wants to stay on and get better and come back. And I would love to honor her in that way and help her with her journey, how we can.
I have a question, and that is, I'm looking at our website to see the term expiration date for Commissioner Hedane is June 2023. Is that correct? So that would be May, June. That's 60 days, 2 months from now. So how would it work that we give a 6-month extension when the term
It's like we just reappointed her.
expires?
But
She
thank
would
you.
have to
Great.
submit an application.
Yeah.
So she will continue, she will do that, and we will.
Does
So-
she have to reapply, or is it just an automatic reappointment?
No, it's
It
the reapply date is in 2027.
Then
Yeah.
she needs
The
to do
term
nothing. You can automatically reappoint her in June.
Yeah, that's what I thought that we had just, Councilmember Kendall and I had done an interview within the last year. And so that her term, this would be a role and an automatic reappointment.
Any other questions? Okay, any public comment?
Any member of the public would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now. Vice Mayor Dawson, I have no speaker slips and no hands raised.
Thank you. So we'll open this for discussion. I just want to start off by saying I respect your honoring and that respect for Lynn. She's quite an icon and contributor to this community. So I think that knowledge base, if she should can come back, we'd like to reserve that space for. I would like to do so as well. So any other discussion? Anybody want to make a movement? Motion? You did? You did? Did you? Okay. Would anybody like to second that?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I
am an aye, so that is unanimous. Our best wishes to Lynn. Okay, and that takes us to, since we moved 16A, 16B, an email from Joe Volker regarding East Bay Mud Centennial celebration and a proclamation, related proclamation. Okay, so let's see, let me go to that.
I'm happy to move approval of the proclamation celebrating East Bay Mud's centennial.
I second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? No questions from council? Any comments?
Any member of the public would like to address the city council on item 16B, please raise your virtual hand now. Vice Mayor Dawson, there are no speaker slips and no hands raised.
Thank you. Councilmember Geringer forwarded the motion. Is there a second? Oh, you did second it too? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I am an aye. What a wonderful celebration. Motion is passed. And okay, then the council, it will be going into closed session. At this time, is there any public comment regarding closed session?
Vice Mayor Dawson, I see no hands raised and I have no speaker slips for the closed session item.
Okay, then the council will adjourn for the closed session. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Council has returned from closed session and there is nothing to report. So we will move on along to item number, oh gosh, is it 18 on the agenda, which is adjournment. So happy night, good night. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everyone have a good night. Thank